Same crap, different pile each time. They don't really develop the character as a strong female character. They just tell you that she's a strong female character.
Ah.
And I feel like a lot of the time when they do that, they make the characters like too perfect, and they're not afraid to show that they're also just flawed human beings, just like anyone else is. And I feel like that's also a big problem. Like the whole movie supports that idea of thinking, and then like the last third of the movie. But I also kind of feel like that's also a way of trying to run away from your own responsibilities, because if it's not you that's being bad, then it's some big bad guy.
We choose what we let reign our lives. So it's like, do you think that there has ever been a movie that you think there's, in your subjectivity, was, in a sense, perfect?
I feel like movies, like the big movies in the theaters nowadays, they're a lot less, they're not as risky as movies were in, like, say, the 2000s. Like, there's so many sequels, and there's, like,
Yeah, I hate that.
They're fun movies, but that's about it. They don't really make me think about anything, though. It's like eating, like, fast food to, like, a nicely cooked steak. Film should be made with, like, a vision to it. Because that question you asked me, like, that's not, like, it's not normally, like, a light I would shine on myself in something I'd actually, like.
Just when looking at you open up my big mountain, what do I say? Them can never love you my way.
Hi. How's life? Are you okay?
I made it. I'm sorry. I'll talk to you. Well, this is incredible. Oh my goodness, this is even better than resurrecting Michael Jackson and then meeting him in person. This is it's like deep, thought-provoking content. Like, it's not every day you just like go on YouTube to look at videos on your Sonic the Hedgehog movie theories, and then you stumble upon like this. Like, this is like art. This is content. People like, this is content, like, you put thought into it, put your heart into it, put your heart and soul and mind into it. And then you're like a little chef, except you're making like internet content.
Aww.
It's just so. Yeah, I'm from Canada, Bible.
Where in Canada are you from?
Winnipeg, Manitoba. I just want to plug that place. Check it out.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I find that, yeah, it's interesting because now most movies seem to be trying to incorporate deeper themes into it, like dealing with female empowerment and just different societal issues. And I actually really appreciate that. I think it's great. But then now I'm like, is it going to become too mainstream? But then does that matter? Because shouldn't there always be a purpose anyway?
Right.
What do you think?
I mean, I could go on about like just how different movies are, and I think there's definitely a lot of issues with movies nowadays. I feel like, because like, I mean, this is not. I mean, yeah, there is like a kind of more of a rise of just like putting in like some kind of agenda in movies, and like sometimes I mean, it really depends on the movie, because like I feel like female empowerment is also a big thing, and I think it's good to have that, just to, like, so you can have more like female characters for people to look up to. But I think also some movies, they kind of push it too much, and it's kind of down my throat, and it's like it's less honoring of female empowerment just because of how they're shoving it down my throat, instead of just having it be a natural thing. It's like, oh yeah, she's just a good, strong female character, instead of just trying the movie like, tell me that. But also, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's almost like they're putting the focus completely in the other direction. Like how maybe men were always the saviors or the heroes or the strong people. It's like now they feel like they have to make it always the woman, but it can't be balanced.
I mean, some forms of media do it better than others, but I don't like it. There's been a lot of media that kind of like pushes female empowerment. Then they're like they they don't really develop the character as a strong female character. They just tell you that she's a strong female character.
Ah.
And I feel like that's the problem, because that's why I don't like movies like Captain Marvel. I think Captain Marvel's not a good movie at all.
Okay.
Because like she is a strong female character, but there's like no depth to her whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. So it's like they don't show you why.
Yeah.
So it's not that convincing on the female perspective.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the time when they do that, they make the characters like too perfect, and they're not afraid to show that they're also just flawed human beings, just like anyone else is. And I feel like that's also a big problem. Like, I think the prime example of that is like in the new Star Wars movies. The main character, she's like touted as like this super powerful Jedi, but like there's nothing to her character at all. She's just strong, and she has no personality whatsoever.
So you think it would be a lot more convincing and it would be a better representation of the strength of females if they actually showed more aspects to who she actually is as a person and the struggles that she faces, that type of thing.
Yeah, a lot, especially with these superhero movies where everyone's like all superpowered and everything. I feel like they show the male characters having a lot more character and like going through their issues better than like the female characters do, and that's not true with all of them. I know, after speaking about like the Marvel movies, like I think Black Widow's a great character. Mm-hmm. I think like Gamora from Guardians is really good. Like I think that's how they should be done. They're strong. They're very strong characters, but they're also not perfect, and like they also just go through a lot of issues, just like everyone else does. It's to the point where you like push them where they're kind of like better than everyone else, like Captain Marvel. I don't like Captain Marvel at all.
What do you think of Wonder Woman, if that wasn't too long ago?
I liked the movie. I liked the movie in the first 2 acts, but I think the last half of the movie falls apart for one reason, which I might rant about right now. You want to rant about?
Yeah, because I actually really loved the movie, so I'm interested to hear your opinion.
So, I think like in the first 2 acts of the movie, Wonder Woman is like handled very well as a character. Like, she's very, very strong, but she's also very naive. Because like the whole basis of like her journey in the movie is that she's only assuming that Ares, the god of war, is behind everything. Mm-hmm. And throughout the movie, it's kind of like the arc of her character is like, people are like, you can't just like assume that he's the villain behind everything, and like the movie kind of heads and supports the direction of her being wrong, and that she's just being kind of too headstrong in her thinking. Mm-hmm. And the whole movie supports that idea of thinking. And then like the last third of the movie, this is the part that really makes me mad. And like the final battle of the movie, the Chris Pine dude, what was his name? Steve? The Chris Pine dude says to Wonder Woman that there isn't just one big bad guy. Some people are just bad, and that's and then you just got to deal with that. You can't just blame it all on one big bad secret villain that's behind everything. And like, that's a really good character arc for her, because she's just like headstrong the whole movie, and then it turns out she was wrong, and like she has to grow from that, and then she realizes that, and then she just decides to continue the fight, realizing that she can't just pin it on any one person. But then they undo her whole character growth, and then make it so like there is one big bad villain, and then somehow she was just right thing. Because the whole reason, like they literally tell her she's wrong for thinking that way, and then they support her for being like, the movie just like validates her for being completely naive and headstrong about the whole situation, because it's dumb. It's a dumb way of thinking for just be like, there's a war happening on the other part of the world. I'm gonna blame some random god of war that I've heard about before, and then assume that he's gonna be behind everything, and then get proven wrong, only to have that growth undone by just magically making him the villain. I really didn't like that at all. I think they just undid her growth as a character, but I don't like the ending. I think they undo it. And I think it's like a very cool thing to do as a superhero movie, because there's in superhero movies always just one big villain that's behind everything, and it's like, oh yeah, get rid of that guy and everything's okay again. And like the movie literally tries to subvert that and being like, no, there isn't one person that you beat and everything's okay again. People are just always going to be bad. And then she has to face the fact that people are bad, because like she's not from like our part of the world, so she doesn't understand like how human nature is, because like where she's from, everyone's kind of like perfect.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, like the movie literally tries to subvert the expectation that there's always one big villain. You beat them, everything's okay, but then does that exact thing, and like what happens? She beats the villain, and then everything's okay. Suddenly, World War II is over now. Like, I don't like that. It literally contradicts its own way of storytelling.
Oh my gosh. I see what you mean.
I think Wonder Woman 2 looks like it could be a good movie.
We'll have to see, hey?
We'll have to see how it's written. Because, like, she was a good character. She had a personality, and she actually like grew to a extent until they undid it. But you know, they kind of figured it out.
Yeah. So they were almost there. So hopefully with the second one, they can be all the way there.
Like, you can't just like write a whole movie with all these themes and then criticize like the normal way of how a movie's done, and then just
live up to the stereotype.
They're doing commentary on it. It's I think if they just didn't do the final battle with the big bad guy, and she just fought like a bunch of Nazis instead, that would have been awesome, and it would have been a great story. But no, it would have been super unique. But I guess they didn't want to do that. They wanted to freaking ruin the movie.
Do you think that, in a way, that idea could relate to faith, in the sense that we like to blame everything that's bad in the world, or that the wrong that people do, on the enemy, which in a sense he does create everything that's bad on the world, but then it also kind of negates our personal responsibility for it, because we always ultimately have a choice, and it's not like we're being forced to do bad. So it's like there's that evil influence, but it's still, in a sense, our choice to do those things. Do you think it could relate in a way sort of like that?
That's deep. I gotta think about that.
Take your time.
Classic. It's definitely very interesting. The thing to think about, because I gotta formulate myself before I really start speaking. Because I think it's just like a matter. Like, I know a lot of people like this super spiritualize it and say that the enemy is responsible for everything bad that's happened. But I also kind of feel like that's also a way of trying to run away from your own responsibilities, because if it's not you that's being bad, then it's some big bad guy. Because the fact is, God gave us like free will, and like human beings are just naturally going to be selfish, and they're going to want to do things to like just not just be bad, but just to elevate themselves. And I think because we have the free will to do that, and like that's what all of sin is. Acting completely on your own. Yeah. Away. And I think like because like Adam and Eve like introduced that everything was perfect before like they made that sin, and then once that one thing was done, like sin became like the norm for us. But yeah, I don't like the enemy does influence things. I do believe that, but I don't think we should hold the enemy like be like, oh, this is the enemy. This is why I'm being bad. No, I think like it's a more of a personal thing where like you need to be better.
Mhm.
I don't know if I answered your question there.
Yeah. So it's like whether we let the enemy reign our lives or whether we let God reign it. And it's kind of like that verse where it calls us to die to our flesh daily. So it's like, even if I think we all have obviously good instincts because we're made in the image of God, but we also have, as you're saying, those selfish and prideful tendencies. So it's like, we choose what we let reign our lives. So it's like, will we die to the parts of ourselves that are naturally selfish and prideful, etc., and choose to let the goodness grow and foster inside of us? Or do we let those things spread and take hold of us and then push away the good? And then that's ultimately how we become more good or more bad innately on the spectrum. Would you agree?
Yeah. You give me a lot to think about.
Yeah, some big concepts. So then I guess I thought about that because what you were saying about Wonder Woman kind of just reminded me of that. It's like there's one ultimate, there can still be one ultimate, in a sense, evil force, but at the same time, it's still down to the population, and it's not the one thing that makes everything bad. It might have influence, but it still comes down to everyone else and their choices.
Mm-hmm. That ending really frustrates me. I'm still trying to get over it.
Yeah.
That's why I had to like be like, can I rant about this? It gets me on.
Yeah. I always like hearing your rants.
I just want movies to be good, man.
Yeah. Do you think that there has ever been a movie that you think there's, in your subjectivity, was, in a sense, perfect, or just what all the aspects of a good film combined together that you want to see more of?
That's definitely a good question. I can't name any of actually. Like one of my all-time favorite movies is The Truman Show. Do you know about that movie?
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that it's your favorite.
Yeah, like it's not like honestly like I don't like it. I don't like I mean I have a hard time whenever someone asks me what my favorite movie is,
Mhm.
just because I've seen some like great movies that really can't be compared to other movies just because they're perfect on their own. And like
Mhm.
there's a lot of movies I hold to like a very very high standard.
Mhm.
And Truman. I normally like when people ask me that I say Truman Show because I feel like most people know about that movie.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to like perfect movies, there's a lot. There's really a lot, and I'm having a hard time like pulling them off the top of my head. But like I know they're like perfect. I think another example of like one that most people would everyone knows this movie. One that everyone knows is Dark Knight. I think Dark Knight is like a
Ah,
perfect movie.
okay.
I think it's not just like a superhero movie, but it's also just a commentary on like human morality, and I think it does that super well. And like
Mm.
the themes and questions that movie raises is like it's so good because that's what like movies are. They should be like because like movies are an art. They are for sure an art, and like depending on what kind of movie it is, it can really like inspire a lot of thoughts and feelings, and like actually make you like think about what you're watching and like
Mhm.
raise a lot of questions. I think Dark Knight is a really good movie that does that.
Mhm.
I think the original 1960s Planet of the Apes. I'm a freaking nerd. I think that movie. I think that movie is also like a perfect movie.
Mhm.
Like because like it also just raises the concept of like what human nature is. Just because like in that movie like it takes place in a world where like apes are like the dominant species and they speak, and then humans are like mindless animals in that world. And it's
Wow.
just like it raises questions about like human nature in its own, and the like It's freaking crazy. It's a crazy movie.
That's so interesting.
And then, not a movie, but the Netflix series BoJack Horseman is probably like one of my favorite things I've ever watched.
Really?
Like, the show like starts off as a sitcom, and it's like a funny show, but then it evolves into like this commentary on like how to on like finding happiness and like whether or not what you do as a person is good and whether or not it's worthwhile. And it's like it
Wow.
gets so philosophical. And I think that show is like so amazingly well written. It's like it's incredible. But like I don't know.
That's cool. Sounds kind of similar vibes to the Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah, Breakfast Club is definitely a perfect movie too.
So
That
good.
movie's so. I haven't seen that one in years though. I want to watch that again. But that is also a perfect movie. Like it takes place in like just like over the course of like a couple hours. It's so good.
Yeah. But it feels like you kind of lose sense of time almost.
Yeah, it's like by the time you're done it, you've been on a journey with these characters, and you've
Mm.
just seen them, and all you've seen them do is sit in a library.
Yeah.
It's so good.
How wild.
Freaking movies are.
In concept, it sounds kind of boring. It's like, oh, you're just in this one room the whole time, pretty much. But it's actually so engaging when you watch it, and it provokes so much thought as well.
I think like when a movie is able to like take place in one room and like also make it feel like you're going on like a journey. That's also really good. I know I'm gonna pull like a really old movie right now. Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window.
Oh,
That movie is so good. It takes place entirely in one dude's apartment.
Mhm.
It's a dude with a broken leg, and he just watches people with like the telescope. It's so freaking. It's one of the best movies I've seen.
I had to write an essay on that for school. That
Oh,
was,
you seen it?
yeah, we literally studied it for quite a while.
That's such a good movie.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't really appreciate it until I studied it. Oh, I mean, it was the first time I had watched it, but we watched it and then studied it. So, and then watched it again and went through it in more depth. But yeah, I feel like the first time I saw it, I was like, this is okay. This is cool. But then I really appreciated all the nuances and just all the aspects and details to it when I realized what it actually was. And I think that maybe because I wasn't so into movies before, as in it wasn't like it was a massive passion of mine. So I didn't know how to recognize those types of things. But once you learn the things to look out for and what makes good movies, that's when you can really appreciate it. So
And then
your however many minute review, that sounded like a lot of the reviews that I had read at the time. I'm like, oh, Jared's a pro reviewer. He knows his stuff.
that is, I just want movies to be good. And also another movie. This is also like a super old movie. 12 Angry Men.
Oh, what's that
Have you
about?
seen that one?
No.
It's like in the 1950s. The whole movie is just a jury meeting, but like it is so freaking good. It is
Really?
so good because it's about 12 men. I mean, the movie's called 12 Angry Men, but not all of them are really that angry. Some are kind of chill.
Okay.
But like, I don't remember what they're arguing over, but like, it's a jury meeting, so they're trying to argue like whether or not someone's like guilty and what kind of like punishment they deserve,
Okay.
and like it really shows like the values of all these different kinds of people, and like how tense it really gets between them, and just like it really shows like what these people value. It's really good, and it
Wow.
doesn't feel. The whole movie takes place in like one room, and it's just 12 people like talking and arguing and like debating over evidence.
Mhm.
But like it feels, and it's like an hour and a half long, but it feels like it's like half an hour. It goes by quick.
Wow.
It's a ride.
That's cool because you get to really see into different personas of people and
Yeah.
understand that. So that's cool.
Well, and that's another problem I think right now in like the modern day of film Because I feel like movies, like the big movies in the theaters nowadays, they're a lot less. They're not as risky as movies were in like, say, the 2000s. Because
Yeah.
now, like, for the primary movies you have at a movie theater are like corporate franchise movies. Like, there's so many sequels, and there's like,
Yeah, I hate that.
like they made like one good movie in like the 2000s. It's like, okay, let's make like 100 more of those movies. But everything's just so corporate now, and it's always like, oh yeah, see Tom Cruise play Mission Impossible 16.
Literally.
Not the bomb. But it's the same crap, different pile each time. I just don't like the modern state of film, because like it used to be like unique. Like, I think going into the 2010s is like when it really became like franchise dominated, because now everything wants to be like, every movie studio wants to have like the super interconnected series of movies, like the Marvel movies. And everyone's trying to mimic that, but each time they try it, it doesn't work because they're rushing into it. Only Marvel's actually done a good job of that. And it's just,
right.
I mean, I like the Marvel movies. They're fun movies, but that's about it. They don't really make me think about anything, though.
Yeah. Just a lot of action.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Marvel movies. They're a lot of fun.
Classic, yeah.
They're good times, but like, I'm not going to sit down and watch it and be like, this is a deep philosophical journey I'm on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm having a good time right now. It's like eating like fast food to like a nicely cooked steak or something. Oh.
Yeah, how true. Like, I've always thought, why do they make so many sequels of the same thing? It literally adds no more value to the world when there's literally so many books out there that would make amazing movies. But
right,
for some reason, they just think that people wouldn't want it.
I just feel like people are just like less comfortable these days, and they want to like see something that they know is they recognize. And like with all these sequels, like mostly sequels are safe bets. Like, they're gonna make a ton of money.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very rare for like a movie, like just like a new movie to come out, and then like if like a new movie comes out and it's successful, they're gonna make a bunch of sequels of it.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes like a product at that point. Like the John Wick movies, like the first one was really good. It told a complete story.
Okay.
Now they made like 5 more, and now it's not that good anymore.
So it's like we're commoditizing the film industry.
Yeah. It's lame. That's all the like the Netflix movies they put out. Those are way better when it comes out in the theaters now. Because there's like actual like thought and art put into like these movies now.
Yeah.
Like you can't go to like a theater and see like art. It's just like see boom boom explosion, guy punching, Tom Cruise punches a guy in the face, instead of actual like smart movie.
Literally. I'm glad we think in the same way on this.
That's the problem.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I feel like the film industry, they control the culture of what people want. So I feel like if they took more risks, people would start to appreciate it even more. But because because they're in this sequel mode, then everyone else, it kind of feeds on that. Like, everyone just gets used to sequels, and then that's what they want more of. So it's almost like they're just they're bringing this on themselves, in a sense.
Yeah. It's I want like original big budget movies again. That'd be real nice.
Yeah, why is it the sequels and random and these big ones that get the big budgets rather than, and then it's left to the small indie producers to make their own actual artistic films and not have enough funding for them?
It's like all the indie companies that like are actually like putting all the original movies now.
Right?
Like half like just like all the movies at the Oscars this year were indie movies.
Whoa, really?
Well, not all of them. I'm probably wrong about that,
But
but
a
like a
lot.
lot of them
That's cool. I appreciate that.
should be like how films should be made with like a vision to it,
Hmm.
and not just let's make something fun so we can make some money.
Yeah, right?
It's just too safe nowadays.
Mhm. Do you ever feel like your life is too safe?
Like, how do you mean that?
That you feel like you should be taking risks, but you're not? I'm not saying that you are, I'm just asking if you've ever had that mindset. Because obviously, by even leaving your home and everything, that's already really out of your comfort zone.
I feel like now, especially with like the whole pandemic and actually going out and like serving, there's always a factor of risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even just going out and serving like on a normal day without pandemic, there's always also another risk to that. Even though like it's rare that something actually does happen, there's always like I feel like there's always an assumption of risk that something could potentially happen.
Mm.
I think as someone who wants to like really to pour his life into like ministry and traveling and like doing missionary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have words anymore.
You're
I
good.
feel like this someone who wants to pursue that kind of lifestyle, I feel like there's also a very big risk in that. I don't know. Am I a safe person though? You're really wrinkling my brain, Brittany.
It's a good question.
Are you safe?
I think the natural tendency, if you will, is to be safe. And then, so a lot of the things that I do in life, I'll question because I'm like, why am I doing this? It's so scary, or it's so crazy, or it's it's a lot. But then I remember that I'm not called to live a safe life, and that
Mm-hmm.
obviously we have a lot of actual legitimate safety and security in having God as our Lord and Savior, but at the same time, yeah, we get to have that safety while we take risks and take on challenges. And so I'm reminded that, yeah, I am called to live in a state of uncomfortability. So actually, even though there comes these times when I'll question things, I'll be like, wait, that's actually a sign that I'm doing something right. It's a sign that I am living in that state of uncomfortability and challenge. So it's obviously questioning what we're doing can be scary, or yeah, scary sometimes, but it reminds me that, yeah, I'm actually on the right path, on the right track.
Hmm.
If that answers your question.
I think I'm trying to think of it because that question you asked me, like that's not like it's not normally like a light I would shine on myself and something I'd actually like look onto myself and think about. Because normally I just don't think about a lot of these things.
Yeah.
I'm like whether or not I'm being like safe and not just like putting not in the sense of putting myself in danger, but just like is just like do I need to be doing something more in that sense? And I feel like all things considered, and like even in this situation right now, I'm like really happy right now.
Yeah,
I think all things considered, to like any normal person that isn't me, I think they shouldn't be happy. But like since like God's really put this like since God's put me in this place at this time and has given me like the opportunity to actually do that kind of thing, that I am happy doing that, and I've never been happier, even though the world's in a crap situation right now. And I think the same for this can go for like the same thing could be said about like just being safe, because like after DCLS, I don't know, like I have no idea where I'm really gonna go. I know I'm gonna be going to college and pursuing missions, and like I have no idea where that's really going to take me right now. I don't know if that's like if I think about it, I really have no idea whether that's gonna be like a safe move for me to do. But like I just haven't been thinking about that. I've just been kind of just like content with it because I've just been thinking more in the now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think God just blessed me with that contentness, not really needing to think or worry about that.
That's so good. Mindfulness of living in the moment is definitely an important thing. That's something that I had to learn as well.
Those words took a lot of brain power from me.
Wow. I think you put it really well. It's synthesized. Yes, Pastor Jared.
Pastor Jared's sermon of the night. Okay, I interrupted you. You can go.
Oh, good. No, I was just thinking that I feel like in general, as the world creates more things for us to do and be distracted by, in a sense, I feel like the younger generations are becoming less and less reflective. And obviously, there is a point where it becomes too much in our thinking. But in general, I feel like, people find it easy to just go with the flow. And obviously, we need to have also, again, an aspect of going with the flow. But we also, it's also important to be thinking about our lives and who we are as people and things. So I think with all the distractions like social media out there, it's easy to not even have the chance to think about ourselves and our lives and our futures, or even the moment that we're literally in, because we just are looking at something else or other people's lives. So I guess that's why I'm passionate about helping people to reflect, because it's something that, as you were saying, we don't have that many opportunities to, just with how the world is structured these days. I'm guessing. Yeah. Well, it's been really great to talk to you, Jared.
Well, you're letting me off?
No, well, I mean, no, I just want to thank you for even sharing your thoughts and with me and just giving this feedback, because I'm glad to see that even though it's documentation for my own memory and my own synthesis of things that I'm learning, but it's great to see that it can actually speak to people as well, and it can add value to their lives, because ultimately I'm not living just for myself, but I'm living to bring the kingdom on earth and actually impact people. So it's so cool that there's people from over and across the world who get to. I really appreciate all your time, and that you're even, literally, who else knows all about all of this content from the channel? You watch it all and you remember it all, and that actually means a lot, because it shows that you care and that it's actually resonated in you. So really appreciate it.
All right, bye, Queen.
Bye.
Just one looking at you open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time, and I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight.